The Passionate Leader, because leadership without passion is just the title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an I-beam gone to a firefighter.
Get that out, urgent, transmit a second along.
This is where titles end and leadership begins. Ask yourself this. If you knew that the word aggressive in the firehouse belonged, how would you make sure it worked its way back into the culture? For Lieutenant Tom LeVay, that answer is simple. You train. You bring your members up to understand that being aggressive does not mean being unsafe. You teach them the ways in which how to be aggressive means that we can get to our residents and those trapped quicker. In part 2 of our conversation with Tom LeVay, we talk everything about that. How to make sure that we are continuing our education, how important education is, and we do touch on some of the life and family life balance in the fire service. If you have not seen it or heard it yet, please go back to episode 30 with our conversation. That's part 1 with Tom LeVay on The Passionate Leader. Without delay, let's get right back to it. With teaching the probies, what's one thing that for sure when you're teaching them that you make sure that you get into their heads that it sets that you think might set them off for the best successful career possible?
We're real big on the crawl, walk, run method. Like,
Okay.
we don't want to, like, we don't overpower them right off the rip. Like, they got a binder like this thick as their probie book, and that's, for lack of terms, that's their Bible. So,
Sure. Yeah.
firehouse shenanigans, if it gets left out, it might disappear, something like that. But it's got all their EMS stuff. So before their onboarding process, they do a 40-hour work week before they even hit 24s. So, and they got to go through all the EMS stuff with Captain Brown. They have to go through their monitors. They have to know how to do all the ALS equipment, IVs, make sure they're up to par with the medic skills before they go out there. And then once they do that, once they're done with their 40-hour weeks, they got to do third rides on an ambulance. So they don't count as staffing yet. And that's usually another 2 cycles, so another 6 shifts. And depending on how the officers and the crew see, they could extend that to a couple more. So
Yep.
But it all depends on I always tell the probies when they come in, you're going to get the effort out of us with the effort you put in. So if we kind of see you slacking off, you're probably not going to get the best training out of us. You'll get the training, but if we're seeing a guy out there throwing ladders during downtime for us, like if he's out there throwing ladders in the middle of the day, you're more apt to get guys out there to help you, be like, hey, this is what I learned, and this is what worked for me, and this is what doesn't work for me. You give them those tools in their toolbox, because they might find something out. And, to be honest, man, until I started teaching at the academy, there were some times some of these probies came in and, you can learn something from them still.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I went through the academy like 15, 20 years ago almost, and things change. So it's good. So, like they always say, you're a student of the fire service. So,
100%.
If there's a junior guy that can teach me something, that's awesome, man. That's a great thing.
Yeah. What's that's a really good point. What is one thing that's been, that you've seen recently maybe come through with the probationary schools and all that stuff that you're like, man, I really like how that evolved from, compared to how you first learned when you joined in. Is there anything that sort of was like that epiphany for you?
It's they're changing the search culture. Like we got how they always tell you, stay on the wall and grab your partner's leg and everything like that. They're teaching like the speed. Like, you got the one leg out in front of you and you're just cruising and sitting with your tool and stuff, and they're big with the ticks, man. Like the tick is a great tool, as long as you know how to use it. And, we didn't really talk about ticks too much when I went through the academy, and that's just kind of something that's going around. We just got a couple of years ago the MSA G1s, and they got the ticks in the packs. So it's like everybody's got their own tick and everything. It's pretty cool. to see like where the probies are and like what's going on with the technology and seeing the two clash, you know. So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. I fully agree. With the search culture, it always blew my mind because like the primary is supposed to be just it's methodical, down and dirty, but fast. It's fast because man, I just read it. I wish I had a brain that could retain shit that I read, but it was, I think for every 2 minutes of elapsed time, you lose 5% of a chance of somebody surviving in the
Hmm.
environment that they're in.
Yeah,
It's something, some drastic number of
yeah,
that nature. Um, and you know, like when we do our, you know, our search and rescue stuff, it's always usually kind of like blase fair. I'm like, guys, you got to move fast. Like we don't have time to do this, you know, hitchhiker, get on my boot and do the snail across the room and hang on the wall. Like you said, use the tick. You can scan the room real quick before you go in. You get a quick layout, and then you let go of the tick, and then you get to work. And then you look for victims, learn what to find because we have minutes,
hmm,
minutes before people can survive. And we just it's the crawl, walk, run method. But we're some departments, especially ones that don't have a lot of training. If you only have one, you know, 2-hour training session a month, then you really can't ever get past
it's a
the
sprint,
main
man. Yeah.
basics of it. Yeah. It's a sad reality. I mean, I coming from the department that I'm on, we're a combination department. And we have one dedicated night a month for training. That's 2 hours. And we just actually took what was usually our meeting month or meeting night of the month and added, you know, small ancillary training to go along with it. You know, half an hour, 45 minutes, but sometimes those can be some of the most, um, you know, rememberable ones, I should say. I can't think of the word off the top of my head. But if you look at it in the past, you know, 2 hours a month, that's only 24 hours a year. And that's hoping that everybody shows up to even show up to training. And granted, I mean, you know, people go on vacations and all that stuff, so it makes sense. But I mean, you can't get past the crawl method if you're only training for 24 hours, you know, 24 hours a year. That's insane. But we are primarily, again, I'm not, it's how a lot of departments in my area operate. We're a combination department, and it's, you know, 80 to 95% all, uh, you know, paid on call staff. So they're doing stuff, you know, outside of the, so that's why trainings have to be so real. That's why I'm a huge advocate of the, you know, I just read an article about, you know, stopwatch time, you know, timed trainings. And it's just to add a little bit more, you know, emphasis on being quick and trying to beat the time and learning how to be efficient in beating the time, not just trying to cut corners to beat the time. So I mean, there's so many cool different ways out there. Excuse me, I love it.
Are you
Um,
familiar with NFPA 1410 drills? You know, you got to get the water supply in so much time, and you know, it's based off like your staffing levels. Like if you have a four-man engine, you have to have your supply line and water flowing on the fire by like 3 minutes or something, and it specifies like your how much hose you have to have. So we usually do those quarterly, so for each unit. So
okay, yeah,
it's pretty cool. So it's just you know, we practice with our staffing. Like we have auto aid stuff. We have auto aid agreements with a few of the neighboring cities.
sure,
But
yeah.
you know, for the longest time, it's only 8 of us on scene, and that's assuming one of the ambulances isn't at a hospital or something. So
And how long, worst case scenario, even if you had auto aid at the initial time of dispatch, how long would it roughly get for them to show up?
so our auto aid's pretty quick. Um, so usually it takes them. Usually they're, I want to say, from their dispatch, from when we're calling them, they're usually there within, I'd say, at the latest 7 minutes. So
Okay,
depending, so Birmingham's usually coming, and they're usually pretty quick. So
sure.
it's you know, and then we got Hazel Park to our south, and their station is a mile south of our city limit, so they're
It's not
right
too
there
bad.
too.
Okay,
So we're
yeah.
pretty close to everything. Um, so I think on any given day with auto aid on a fire, we have I think 14 guys. So
Oh, that's not
for
too
for
bad.
a
Yeah.
house fire, so I mean it's not terrible. You can do a lot, especially with the you know the recycling and everything. So
Yeah. I mean, but the downfall to that though is that that is best case scenario and assumes that they're not out on a run themselves. Because if they are, then now you're compounding issues.
right,
But
if we're on the other side, I'm on the admin side right now where it's quiet. So if we were on the other side, I'd show you a picture, but it was back when we were at six-man staffing for the day, and we
Yeah.
had two rescues, two ambulances at the hospital in
Uh,
Royal Oak, which is like the next town over, and fire came in the south end, so we didn't have an engine staffed in the south end that day. So the engine's coming from the north end with two guys, and
yep.
we got there and it's got Captain Powers. A great picture. I mean, Captain Powers is just sitting on a deuce and a half, watching this house just rip, and they were fighting that fire by themselves for like, I think it was like 9 or 10 minutes, just watching it fight
Wow.
because it happened to be like that same time neighboring jurisdictions were on their own fire. Like
Sure. Yep.
Ferndale. I think Ferndale was going to Southfield for a fire that day or something like that. So it was just, it was perfect storm at that point. And it's
Yeah.
kind of,
Perfect shitstorm. Yeah.
it's kind of like what pushed them to be like, hey, this is why we need the additional staffing for this reason.
How supportive? I mean, granted, you're at 8, so you're still well understaffed. But I mean, how generally speaking, how supportive is the community of for the fire department and stuff like that in your neck of the woods?
They're very supportive. So I mean, they're supportive with us. They're very supportive of their public safety. Like if we
Yeah.
ask for a millage, usually we're asking for a good reason, and
Sure.
they'll back it. As long as they don't try to do anything sneaky and put something else in it, but they'll uh,
Mm,
they'll back it. And we have a great city administration. Pretty much like tells us if there's money, we'll be able to try to get you guys staffing and get PD staffing. But comes down to money. Like
sure.
we're
Yeah.
luckily. I mean, I'm happy at 10. I'd love 12.
Yeah.
13-man units. It's just you talk to some of the old retirees. We get a few that live in the city, and they retired 15 years ago or 20 years ago, and they were saying, yeah, they had 13 guys on staff that day and no ambulances. So it's just like it's like
Yeah.
flip the time.
Well, yeah, for sure. No, that's true. Oh man, it's awesome. Um, so you've been a lieutenant for what, a month now? We've discovered, or
Yep.
cover. I should say covered. Um, what what are some of your big goals that you have as a newer officer of the fire department?
So my goal is I'm also the tech team coordinator. So I run the tech team for us. So my goal as an officer now is to be able to train the guys, my engine company, to be like, hey, if a tech rescue comes in, I want you guys to be able to at least do a basic operations on this stuff, a basic confined space, like be able to set up a tripod, you know, be more proficient in this stuff because at any little thing we can do is just, takes minutes and maybe hours away from the tech team having to set stuff up. So I'm
Mm.
trying to get proficient in that and, keeping them. Hold on a second.
Yeah, yeah.
Make sure that's not me going. No, just the rescue. Just the ambulance. Just the ambulance. But
Somebody needs a band-aid.
it's pretty much what it is. But it's just one of the local senior centers. So,
Fair.
but
Yeah.
no, I think the big thing I want to accomplish as a lieutenant is, like I said earlier, is I want to get all my crew up to that point where someone on the outside looks at us and they can't tell who the boss is. They want,
Yeah, that's a good.
everybody's taking charge. I'm a big proponent. Like, I don't know if you're into the Jocko stuff and the extreme
Sure.
ownership and extreme
Yep.
ownership, and like that decentralized command and stuff. I'm real big into that. Like Captain Brown, he's big into that too. And it's just like, hey, you mess up, own it. And I'm gonna trust you guys. I'm not gonna micromanage you. I'm gonna give you guys be like, hey, this needs to get done. I don't care how you do it. I just want it done quickly, safely, and efficiently. So,
Yeah.
just goes back to that empowerment. And as a new lieutenant, I'm in that position to be like, hey, you know what, guys, get it done. I trust you. I don't make me be the boss, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Don't make me be the boss. I don't want to be the boss. I want to
Yeah.
have fun and everything, but I'm gonna hold you guys to a standard. And we're gonna meet that standard every time.
Yeah. What so far, what has been your biggest learning curve going from buddy to boss?
So my biggest learning curve is not only the not being able to do stuff, like having to tell the guys, be like, hey, this is what we got to get done, but also having to manage the multiple personalities and different personalities, kind of, so and so get along with so and so, and just trying to manage that. And then I think the biggest issue I have is all officers here have like side projects that they're in charge of, and
Sure.
mine's PPE, the tech team, and I have hose maintenance and things like that. So it's just balancing the time, trying to get all those tasks done while managing a crew, while getting the trainings in, while running
Yeah.
calls. That time management. Luckily today on overtime, I'm on the engine, so I just knocked out one of my projects. Took like six
Yep.
hours,
Yep.
but I just knocked it out.
That's awesome. What so kind of to managing the personality conflicts, and I mean, being very very brief into it, have you had that experience yet, or do you? And I mean, it's going to happen if it not. I mean, I don't mean to makes sound down or anything like that, but it's definitely going to be something that you'll run into in the future. How would you prepare for that, or how have you had to do it so far?
I mean, basically, I've been on this unit a month promoted, and I've had to deal with it once already. It's
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, I sit them both down, one separate, one at a time, and just be like, what's the issue, and like, what can we
Mm,
do to resolve this? I was like, at the end of the day, we're adults. Let's try to figure it out, man. If we can't, let's at least be professional about it.
sure.
I get you don't like so and so, and I get they don't like you, and you guys just butt heads. Or it could be as simple as a miscommunication. Like somebody thought something about something, and it was just miscommunicated. And, like they say, there's three sides to everything, right? Their
Mm,
side, my side, and the truth, pretty much. So,
yeah.
but it's definitely different. And I don't leave the captain in the dark. So like if I have to do something, I loop him into everything, so he's not blindsided. If I have to pass it up, he's so uh, Captain Brown's real big on the chain of command. He's like, hey, if you're
Yeah.
having a
Good call.
problem, he's like, if you're having a problem, solve it. If you can't solve it and you're bringing it to me, tell me what you did to try to solve it and why it didn't work. And be like, hey, listen, I need advice on how to do this. Here's the problem, but here's the solutions I tried, not working. What would you think at this point? Like, I'm kind of out of options at this point.
I love it. Honestly, I think from a from a senior officer standpoint, there's nothing more respectable than a lieutenant who tries to handle it themselves, but loops everybody in. Because if you try to do it by yourself and you leave everybody in the dark, when somebody marches their ass into my office and they're like, Chief, this and this and this and this, I'm like, I don't know where we began. And it's hard to, I will always have officers' backs first and be like, well, I'm sure there was a reason that this is my time to, but I'm going to talk to him. Well, if you've already armed that officer, with the captain, captain specifically, Jesus, you've already taken, any ammo that, the complainants, I guess we can call them, they already know for a fact that you've already informed the captain as far as what they've tried. So it's going to bode well as far as everything in the future too, because they're not going to be able to play the whole mom and dad card type thing. Like, we'll go to mom, we'll go to dad, we'll go to, so that's a good play. I love it. I think you guys got a really good thing going on over there, and I'm super stoked to see that you're doing good. What do you do? So off time, I mean, how do you balance the work family life?
So I've gotten a lot better at it. I used to be, first got hired, I was gung ho this place,
Mm,
but now my girls are 8 and 5, so they're
hmm.
kind of doing their thing, and you know it's when I'm home, unless it's like I have to answer the call, like it's the chief or the deputy chief calling, I'll kind of let it go, and I'll get in my
Mm,
next work day. I usually check my work email like once in the morning and like once before I go to bed, as if anything happens. I need to like I got parts coming in for equipment or something. I'll
sure.
check something that, but other than that, I kind of balance it. I'm a big component of like leave it here. So when I'm at home, I'm at home. My wife has to reel me in. My wife Eric has to reel me in sometimes. Like she'll be like, "Hey, you know, you're talking a lot about work right now." I'm like, "All right, yep." But like you said earlier, I got 12 acres of land. It's kind of like my little island out there. It's back in the
Sure.
woods, backs up to the water, so it's my own little
Nice.
paradise.
Okay.
Like my wife loves kayaking. I could take it or leave it. So, but we go out there usually. We try to go out there a couple times a year and back up to like because we can launch right from our property, so it's kind of nice.
Oh, that's so
So,
cool.
yeah,
How far removed as far as travel time from firehouse to home are you?
I am about an hour and 20 minutes from my
Okay, so
my desk.
that's
So,
good. That's
yeah,
a good separation.
yeah, I was kind of when the girls were young. My parents are snowbirds. My mom's a
Hmm.
snowbird, so she leaves in the winter, and we needed help with the girls, so we moved out to closer to her parents, and her parents are like 10, 15 minutes away.
Yep.
So and now I can't imagine moving again because first of all, I don't want to move. That was awful. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to pack a house, especially with kids, because we packed our last house in like I think 3 days. We packed an entire house in like 48 hours because that was the 48 hours we didn't have the kids.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, and like you wanna see how strong your marriage is. Move a pack a bag and move a house. See how that goes.
Honestly, our profession puts a hell of a strain on our spouses anyways
Yeah,
as it is, because it is. I have to find another. I always compare us to, like, bankers, and you don't see a banker who's like, oh yay, I get to go make deposit slips tomorrow, like, but
right,
whereas us, it's, oh my god, I wonder if they caught a job last night, or I wonder what the boys are up to, or if whatever the case is. And we naturally take it home because we're so damn passionate about what we do, because we have the best job in the entire world. The downfall is it also is extremely stressful on our significant others, because they generally are not as passionate about it as we are, and they could care less about whatever's going on.
right. My wife's a rock star when it comes to that. So especially because it's not uncommon for me to be on a 72 once or twice a month. So
Yep. Yep.
so it's her holding down the fort for essentially 5 days. The three I'm here
Mm,
plus the one after usually until I get home. So
yeah.
it's not uncommon, and it's not to say it's not hard, and it's hard, but she gets it. She's got that's kind of why we moved out there closer to her parents too. Is she's got more of a support system out there if she needs it. All her friends are out there, and
Yeah.
they
Sure.
get together and stuff. And my wife she brings the girls out if I'm on 72s. They're at that age now where it's not as terrible to come out, so they
Sure.
can do the long drive. So it's but she's ultimately a rock star. So I don't think I
That's awesome.
could do this without her. So it's
Yeah, that's
really
good.
she
That's
pushed
great.
me through medic school. So and trust me
They have a thing. They have a thing.
that was not for me either. So
I I don't blame you. When I went full time, so New Hampshire requires a minimum of a basic, and I am there's a reason I'm on the fire side, not the EMS side.
mhm,
I don't like it. It is not my thing. I'm not. Um, it never really was. So I ended up having to do my EMTB when I went full time, and the state of New Hampshire will allow you to get hired, with caveats of you have to get this by so many months or years or whatever. And it was an 18-year-old, one of our 18-year-old kids. He had just joined, and he's a psycho enough that when it comes time for recert, he actually takes the NREMT exam. Instead of doing Con Ed, he'll actually take the exam again. He's that much of a sociopath. So but he looked at me one day because he's like, he asked, he goes, how's it going, JP? I'm like, dude, I just don't like it. Like I'm getting it. And then the instructor was, he was good at teaching it so that, a Frenchman like myself could figure it out. But I'm like, I don't, it's just not for me. And he looks at me square in the eye and he goes, JP, he goes, you just got to remember, dude, helping people's helping people. And as
right,
soon, and he like mic drops and walks away. And I'm like, bro, dude, you're spot on, kid. Like and it helped get me through the class, but it didn't make me like the subject matter any bit more. But
right. There's a we talk about like the fire service how it's changed over the years, and it's
yeah,
EMS heavy and stuff. And again, I'll go back to this book, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
there's a great quote in there. It says the lonelier society gets, the busier EMS gets, and it's you know
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
I mean it's more true. Like I went on the volunteer side where we were MFR or EMR first responders, basic first
Mm.
responders, and going up to a medic where you're transporting ALS, it's definitely, you see a lot more. It's more calls, busier area, so
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing. So we are getting busier, and it's only gonna get busier. So hopefully we can catch up. So
Well, and society is aging, and it's a cyclical thing. We'll
mhm.
cycle through, but it's so true. I mean, this has been a great time. I really do appreciate the time you've given to myself and the listeners, and even the viewers if they want to watch on Spotify or YouTube when we release. But we'll close out. We always do. For the firefighter who's listening today, that's just starting their leadership journey. What is your raw and unfiltered advice for them?
Do it, man. Do the classes. Don't wait for your department to put you through a class. If your state offers it, like we have a lot of funded classes through the state. State paid for my fire officer 1 and 2. Yeah, do those classes, get your instructor. You might find something else you like even more doing that. But never stop learning. Just keep it going. You're always gonna be learning. Take those classes. If you got to take a vacation day to do it, do it. I've done it. If you take those classes, man, if they won't send you to it and you still want to take it, it's not uncommon for guys, especially here, man. Like we got a lot of good guys that if they really want to go to a class, they'll put a vacation day up and go to the class. So
Yeah,
it's good. So like just go out and do it, man. Don't wait for anybody. It's your time.
I love it. Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover while we're together, or anything like that?
Yep. Yeah, it's New Hampshire, right? That's where you're at.
Yes.
Do they
Yep.
require continuing ed yet for firefighters?
They do not, and it's something that I am 100% in support of when it finally does come our way.
So we just
Yeah.
finished our first cycle here in Michigan. It started in 22, and it's kind of following like
Okay.
following the EMS license here. So it's like every 3
Really?
years. Yeah, so I think it's 36 hours for a firefighter, and then 48 hours for fire officers and fire instructors have to have continuing education.
Dude, and there's just honestly, and it's a fight that it's a hill that I'll be willing to die on in the fire service as far as a requirement, because it's such a dangerous industry that we're in, and for us to be able to rest our laurels on education that some guys might have got back in the 60s and 70s, and not have to go get re-educated or stay up to date on stuff. I think that's a damn good idea. I have a really good friend who works up at the State Fire Academy, and I'll have to let him know, because I didn't realize there was even a state that had requirements. So I mean, 100% in support of it.
Yeah,
So
I think this is the first cycle we did of it. So it's
no, it's good.
I think it's 48 hours for officers, and you got to do officer development, which is good. So I mean, we run
Yeah,
blue card out here, so it's uh it's good. We get it all, so it's good. I think it's a good idea. I know we got a lot of the volunteer departments are pushing back against it, but
yeah,
I think it's a good thing. I mean, we get our trainings in regardless, so it
yeah.
counts as a continuing ed, and that's awesome. So you know, cool.
Now is it across the board for all fire service in the state, or is it just for the career departments? Do you
All
know?
fire, all fire. So state fire marshal put it up there that you got to have these continuing eds. So it's pretty nice. It's a positive direction. It's a moving positive
Yeah,
direction
yeah.
for us. So and it's I forget about the volunteer side because I'm surrounded by career departments out here.
Sure,
There's
sure.
I think 13 career departments. 11 of them are all mutual aid with us. So
Yeah,
it's we don't. Oakland County, I think, is like one of the top 250 wealthiest counties in the country. So like
sure.
we have abundance of full-time fire departments around here. So it's we don't have
It's
a lot of the
awesome.
volunteer stuff, which is good. So I mean, we have
But
one
yeah,
volunteer department just to the north of us, and I think they have 5 or 6 stations. So
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
They're I think one of the last true 100% volunteer departments. I don't think they're the paid on call. So
Yeah. No, I love it. I think that is a damn good idea that the marshal put that in place, because it's like I said, it changes so much, and honestly, it would eliminate a lot of newer training scars, if that makes sense. If we have people who are under practice, I don't want to say out of practice, that they haven't been, to a class in a really long time, and um, I love it. What a damn good idea. Awesome, dude. Well, listen, dude, thank you so much for your time. Um, this has been sorry, you got me speechless. Actually, I'm actually really in love with this. Thank you for your time. For those listening, thank you for spending your time with Tom and myself today on The Passionate Leader. If something today hit home, don't just sit with it. You have to share it. And more importantly, act on it. If you want to be part of the Passionate Leader movement, please make sure that you're following the Passionate Leader across all platforms, on all socials, on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember this: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until we meet again, guys, stay safe.